Om Kayena vacha manasyendrayirva Bhutyatmanava prakriti swabhava Karomi adyat sakalam paresma Narayana samarpayami Narayana samarpayami.
Dear Seeker of Truth, welcome. This is a very auspicious moment. We are going to talk about Bhakti. Bhakti, divine love. So we are going to talk about Bhakti as the essence of all spiritual paths, as the soul of all spiritual paths, and also as a path in itself, Bhakti Yoga. So this is a work made by sage Shandilya, the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras. Not much is known about this Shandilya, only that he was a sage, a God-realized being that gone through many other philosophies and finally got to the nectar-like Bhakti as the soul of it all. So Sage Shandilya had a very intellectual approach also. He was concerned about getting from the different authorities, the different scriptures, the validity, the importance of Bhakti as a spiritual path. So he gathered that all and shared it. So may you all find divine love in your hearts. May you all be blessed by this auspiciousness. May you all find God. Moving on, Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, second sutra. Bhakti is to have supreme, unshakable, true, undiluted, and untainted love and attachment for the Supreme Being, the Lord God of creation, Ishvara. So this is a very complete sutra that explains what is pure Bhakti. So Bhakti is to have supreme love for God, for Ishvara, the ultimate being, supreme love, which is above all worldly love and desires. Unshakable, a love that nothing can break, that nothing can disturb. True, pure, which has no desires attached to it. Undiluted and untainted love and attachment for the Supreme Being. So attachment for the Supreme Being to the point of life becoming meaningless without God. We will go into this more in detail. A point which is important is to God, to that Supreme Being, no other. No deities, nothing. It's to the Supreme Being and no other. This devotion for the Lord is primary devotion. All other forms in which Bhakti is practiced are secondary types of devotion. So this primary devotion is when the heart is flooded with this divine love. This is the primary. This is God's grace. All other forms, those that are practiced, they are called secondary. They aid in the fulfillment of Bhakti. They aim to give the devotee the success in Bhakti And we will go one by one in all of them in these series. It is the main form because it is favored by the Lord God himself. Fancies purity, yes. It is the purpose of existence, like mentioned previously. The purpose of life is that loving relationship, that pure love with God. It creates an unbreakable bond between the devotee and the Lord. When this happens, nothing of the world can distract that devotee. Such is the power of that love, of that bliss. Bliss, beatitude, eternity, liberation, deliverance, emancipation, salvation, all become irrelevant to the devotee. And he is not worried with them alone at all. They come to him without asking. So, the one who is immersed in bhakti doesn't care about liberation, doesn't care about salvation, none of those things. He cares only about that love. But still, liberation comes unasked. Because if it is asked, if you are asking for that liberation, that means you're missing the point. And the point is, divine love is to be able to be in that relationship with God. And by asking for that liberation, it means your devotion is still not pure. There is desire attached to it. And it means it's not pure, and it will not bring liberation as you are asking for liberation, because as long as it is not pure, you will not be able to experience, to live that loving relationship. And that is the purpose. It's not like a video game where you have fulfilled all these conditions and then you pass the level. It's like without that purity, you will not be able to experience that divine communion. And that is the purpose of it all. This love and longing for God that are being endorsed in this verse relates to the Supreme Lord and not to the world. This is why it is Parama, supreme. So, this love for God has nothing to do with desires, which translates in love for the world. It is for the Supreme Lord alone. This is what this love is talking about. The attachment endorsed is not like worldly attachments that lead to entanglement. Attachment to the Supreme Lord leads to liberation. So, attachment to sense objects is quite different, and it is always mentioned in all philosophies that detachment needs to be there. Here the main focus is not detachment from worldly objects. It is a part of it, yes, but it talks about attachment to God. So it's like moving all attachments to God. And God, by being the supreme being, that leads to liberation. So it's different. So attachment, it's simple actually. Attachment to the world leads to bondage. Attachment to God leads to liberation. Because God is that which transcends the world. And attachment to God, complete attachment to God, means that no other attachments are there anymore. Bhakti has got only the definition that it is unalloyed attachment or love for the Supreme Godhead, and therefore is concerned only in relation to cognized soul with the oversoul. So it is the direct relationship of the jiva with God, with no other purposes in between. And it's not born of worldly things. Worldly things, like explained in the previous sutra, it's not a cause of some actions. So it is causeless and unswerving love and attachment to Godhead, where there isn't an iota of aspiration of elevation or salvation, as we find in the Vishnu Purana. May not that ceaseless flow of love desert my heart, even though I may have to pass through thousands of births. So from this statement, it is clear that the intensity of this love is such that the devotee doesn't care if he has to go through thousands of births. He cares about losing this love, this intense, pure love with God. So it seems like a contradiction that only the desire for liberation has to be there to start with. But here is saying that not an iota of aspiration for elevation or salvation has to be there. It means love has reached its purity. Because individuals conditioned love God for something in return, like they love one another for something in return. So they can only love God in the beginning to get salvation, get something worthwhile, because they think, well, I have so much here, so much suffering, but okay, they think it's good, it's pleasure, it's wonderful, whatever. And to love God, why? Well, I must have something in return also. So, okay, I will love God for salvation. And that's how it starts. There's a beautiful story that talks about the churning of the ocean by the devas and the demons to bring back Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity. The nectar, the Amrita, the nectar of immortality. And the devas could not do it by themselves. The demons could not do it by themselves. They had to join forces. And the demons were told that they would get their share of the Amrita nectar of immortality. And they believed it. That's why they joined. But eventually they didn't. They never were supposed to. So this is like this churning in the quest for the nectar of immortality. So all your greed and all these things, they will be in your spiritual path also, alongside with the divine qualities that are there, a little bit present, dormant, whatever. And it is in this work that these unworthy traits that are unworthy of God's blessings, they get purified, they get cured. So in the beginning, loving God for liberation, then as purity rises, it is seen that loving God is the nectar. So if this conception could be made of exiting the wheel of samsara without loving God, then it would be incomplete. The purpose would have been lost. Sri Bhagavan says, If the beloved self of the Holy One can be captivated only through bhakti, the beloved self of the Holy One can be captivated only through bhakti. No other means, only through love, through devotion, can God be captivated. Devotion to me absolves even the low caste from the stigma attaching to this birth. So I'm not going to all the details of these low castes, but devotion to God absolves even the most hideous of sins. Pure devotion to God. So nothing is an obstacle to this devotion to God. So sins, offenses that we will talk later, they are an obstacle, a huge, gigantic obstacle in the path of the seeker of truth, the devotee. They are an obstacle to him, a huge obstacle. But if love becomes pure by the intention, by the commitment, by the tuning, by the sincerity, eventually all those mountains are cleared by that pure love towards God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "Such devotee of mine eats and drinks, walks and moves, sleeps and keeps awake, and carries all other activities as I alone is enshrined darling of their hearts." Meaning that the devotees, the ones who are in complete communion with God, whatever appears they are doing, God is enshrined in their heart. They are completely in tune with God. All else is just, and whatever they are doing, it serves this purpose alone. This communion with God, complete, unflinching, undisturbed communion with God. They have no personal interests or desires anymore. And they serve God as God says. And also, my mystic crest jewel devotees, when they meet together, their very entertainment is to delve deep in the most esoteric love of my transcendental pastimes. So when these devotees meet with each other, their entertainment is to talk about the stories of the pastimes of the Lord when he sported amongst the jivas in this world for different purposes. We will go a little bit into that also. So these devotees, they find entertainment, joy in sharing these and talking about these pastimes of the Lord. I enlighten the heart of those who follow strictly the path of devotion with the ever-burning lamp of divine wisdom and completely destroy the gloom of ignorance. So those who follow strictly the path of devotion, meaning that every breath is taken, given as an act of devotion. All actions are for devotion also, only are an act of devotion. We may think it is talking about karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. It is in a sense, but like I've said in the beginning, bhakti is the soul of all paths. So when he is saying that, I enlighten the heart of those who follow strictly the path of devotion, means that all actions of that being, they are a devotional offering to God. It is only about loving God, everything. that is strictly the path of devotion. So it doesn't matter what activities they are doing, it is all an act of devotion. They enjoy spiritual communion with me in discoursing on my ever blissful glories, attributes, and pastimes. So by talking about the pastimes of the Lord, the attributes of the Lord, they enjoy that divine communion and ecstasy by sharing that with others also. A clever man, when he tears the veil known by the name of ego, realizes Brahman. Mind becomes transparent, therefore does not grieve, does not anchor after anything mundane, gets equitable vision towards all beings. And in that state of his self, he gains unadulterated devotion to me. So even the one who realizes Brahman, the absolute transcendental, gains devotion to God. Because they are sane. But we'll move to that also. Prahlada, who possessed the highest devotion, said thus: the firm affection that the deluded feel towards the object of senses, such a firm affection may I have towards thee. May it never depart from my heart, remembering thee. This is in Vishnu Purana. So Prahlad was possessed the highest devotion. He had so high devotion that his father, a demon called Hiranyakshapu, I think, didn't want him to have devotion towards Vishnu. So he tried to persuade him, then tried to kill him many times, and eventually the Lord manifested from a pillar because Prahlada said that he would be there. And that pure devotion was so powerful that the Lord manifested itself to end up with the demon in an incarnation which is known as Narasimha, half man, half lion. So the power of that devotion that brought the Lord to him. This was the level of devotion of Prahlad. So the firm affection that the deluded feel towards the objects of the senses, that firm attachment that people have towards the world, may I also have towards thee. This was a prayer, a heartfelt prayer of Prahlada. May it never depart from my heart, remembering thee. So it doesn't matter what happens to me, but please don't let me forget you. When one truly loves God and develops intense affection for him, then all the other things become irrelevant, because it is nectar. Remembering the Lord and remaining lost in his thoughts, which would be equivalent to doing meditation and contemplation on the Lord, at all times of life would be a natural thing when the person begins to love him. So yes, in the beginning, meditation is very important, and because purity is not there. But as purity evolves, it is constant communion with God. The love becomes so strong that it's constant communion with God, meditating or whatever activities are being done. So when that love becomes intense, everything else becomes irrelevant. So the meditation, the formal meditation, is about removing attention from objects, from that love towards worldly objects, so that it can be brought to God. But when that love is intense, those objects become irrelevant, and it is constant divine communion. When this stage is reached, there is no need for other formalities between the devotee and the Lord. Those are there to help reach this level. So all the formalities that we are going to talk also, they are important into the practice of bhakti, to bring this sacredness, reverence, which is very important. But when that love is strong, intense, pure, no more formalities are needed. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "My devotee who knows me as his only object of adoration and love, who is attached to me with single-minded devotion and faith, who has his mind and senses focused on me, who is completely absorbed in me, is able to purify his heart and enliven his inner self by nurturing my thoughts and remembering my glories, my holy name, my forms at all times." So, my devotee who knows me as his only object of adoration and love, nothing else, possessions, family, whatever, only God as his object of adoration and love. This is not shared, this love, because as it is shared, it is still a worldly love. Who is attached to me with single-minded devotion and faith, meaning it's not shared. That love is not shared with other objects. Single-minded devotion, a mind that doesn't get distracted with anything else and it's completely focused in God. And faith is a very important part of devotion, and has his mind and senses focused on me. So the mind doesn't get distracted. The senses are not going after the sense objects, they are all turned to the Lord. Who is completely absorbed in me, by that he is able to purify his heart and enliven his inner self by nurturing my thoughts and remembering my glories, my holy name, my forms. Continues, to it he lives for me, breathes for me, and eats and drinks for me. And he lives in me to the extent that without me he wouldn't have an independent existence. Verily indeed, he lives only for my sake. His life is to serve me and give pleasure to me. So this is God saying. Of course, a worldly interpretation of this would be disastrous. But it is a life that is the only purpose of its existence is to love and serve God. And this is churning the endless ocean of love. So when you say in worldly terms to serve someone, it has a different meaning. Serving love may in form be the same, but the essence of it is pure bliss, pure ecstasy. For him, even a moment's separation from me is unbearable. He carries on with his world duties and responsibilities, whatever that means, but only because those activities please me, and not because of any own interest served by them. So, even one moment's separation from God, one distraction, at this level is very difficult, very unbearable. Such is the intensity of that love. He carries on with his duties and responsibilities in the world, whatever they may be, but only because those activities please me. So they are directed by God, they are aligned with God or the Guru, only because those activities please God, not because they have any own interest in those activities. They live exclusively for God. I alone am enshrined in such a devotee's glorious heart. To wit, I am a darling of this devotee, and he is a darling to me. To him who has the devotion for me in the aforesaid manner, I eliminate the darkness and the gloom of delusions and ignorance from his heart, and at the same time I am responsible to lighten his path leading to the final liberation and deliverance that grants eternal bliss and beatitude. So, not only he blesses with him, and he says that this devotee that has enshrined me in his heart, I am a darling to him, and he also is a darling to me. Not only I grant him liberation, but I also lighten the burden of his life. Lighten the burden of his life or of his path towards me, towards liberation. Not confusing with lighten the burden of the world, There must be always this clear separation. So the love of God is an infinite and absolute feeling of spiritual ecstasy and joy, which grants immense bliss and beatitude. Bhakti is the longing for the Lord God that is so intense and deep down in the heart of the devotee that he thinks of nothing else than the Lord. It's complete absorption, this bhakti, this highest bhakti. Bhakti is a unique feeling that overcomes all other emotions. It is a desire for love of God that negates all other desires. It fills the heart of the devotee with extreme ecstasy and profound bliss, like it was a pristine, pure, and freshly produced nectar. A person who has experienced love for God would never think of anything else. Okay.
Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, tvameva bandhushka sakha tvameva, tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva, tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva.